So sleep is that death is that interminable sleep. Please understand, particularly old people. About death, don't worry. A person may be suffering from pain. That is only before death. At the time of death, pak, he goes to sleep. Never wakes up. Mrityuhu atyanda vismritihi. Endless vismriti, forgetfulness. Temporary or transitory forgetfulness is sleep. So exactly, death is no other than interminable sleep. Now what should be our attitude about sleep? Sri Krishna tells Uddhava, Na abhinande dhruvam mrityum adhruvam vapi jividam. Never aspire or desire to die. Never. There are some people who want to die. They sometimes light special lamps also, but do they die? Huh? Why? By lighting a few more lamps we can die. So when you desire, you may not die. You will not. Suppose you invite death, it will not come. Suppose you refuse death. So nabhinande dhruvam mrityum. Because it is definite, don't compliment it, don't desire it. And what about life? Adhruvam vapi jividam. With regard to life also, don't aspire or desire, because it is indefinite. What? All imbalances, inequities, differences, variety, disparities, everything is displayed by life. So is life to be desired? No. Is death to be desired? No. So live in a state of mind where you are transcending both life and death. नहीं समझा? हाँ? कोई तो सिर नहीं हिलाते हैं, थोड़ा अच्छा सा हिलाइए ना. Nabhinande dhruvam mrityum adhruvam vapi jividam. This is what Krishna tells Uddhava. Understand it. This is an attitude that we can cultivate. So death problem is resolved. No more Arjuna raises it. Now what is it? All about life. And Krishna gives a beautiful formula. This is called interactional sadhana. What is that? Matra sparshastu kaunteya Shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha Agamapayino anityaha Tanti dikshasva bharata. Matra sparshastu kaunteya Shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha. Our life is an interaction. Interaction between the senses which are on our body and the objects which are widely distributed in the world. Any time life is an interaction. The interactions take place in the sensory level, but the consequences or impacts of these interactions are not in the sensory level. They are in the inner level, in the sphere of the mind, where you experience everything. Am I clear? No. Matra sparsha. The entire life is a sparsha, contact between the senses on our body and the objects in the world. As I mentioned to you earlier, these interactions can be with persons, places and events. All of them are objects. Now, life is matra sparsha, interactions between the senses and the objects, and they have got their nature. What is the nature? Shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha. They will always bring about the twin reactions or responses in the mind called pleasant and unpleasant, sukha and dukkha. They are like heat and cold for the body. Our body can generate only two sensations, either heat or cold. Heat is opposed to cold and cold is opposed to heat. Suppose you get into a fever, then whatever was hot will suddenly you will feel, I feel chill. So they are variables, one opposed to the other. Shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha. Now these sukha dukkhas which are like Shita and Ushna, they are irresistibly made. Whenever senses and objects interact with each other, they are irresistibly emerging. Because they are irresistible, do you have to do anything there? Tan tidikshasva bharata. Forbear them, allow them to be. You don't have to invite them. You don't have to cause them. They will come and they will go. Agamapayins. They are coming and going. Understand that they come, they emerge and subside. They come to go, they go to come. Simply remain. Tidikshasva. Forbear them. Forbear them. This forbearance comes from knowledge, spiritual wisdom that Krishna is imparting to Arjuna. This Swamiji is imparting to all of you here in this hall. Tan tidikshasva bharata. This is the only formula that you require for making your life successful and fulfilling. All kinds of inhibitions, prejudices, preferences, delusions, diffidence, lack of clarity, ambiguity, all these things negatively produced by the mind and the intelligence, all of them will simply flee provided you have this kind of an evenizing attitude towards them. Tan tidikshasva bharata. This forbearance, letting them to be, to come and to go, a kind of a patient response to both. This will arise only from spiritual wisdom. When you are able to imbibe this and manifest it, what will happen? Yam hinavyathayantyede purusham purusharashabha samadukha sukham dhiram somrudatvaya kalpade. In a simple explanation it is given. Life is analyzed to be an interaction between the senses and the objects. And these interactions are irresistibly producing within the body the twin reactions or responses called Sukha and Dukkha. Understanding them to be coming and going transitory, Arjuna, develop an attitude of tolerance and forbearance towards them. By this forbearance, will our purpose be fulfilled? Can the great gain be achieved? Fulfillment? Yes. How? Yam hinavyadhayam dyede purusham purusharashabha samadukha sukham dhiram sobradattvaya kalpade. The man who is able to tolerate these things, assimilate both with an equal attitude, that man is fit for liberation. He gets amritattva, the shreyas that you ask for. Saha amritatvaya kalpade. What is to be done? Instead of loving sukha and hating dukkha, you develop an attitude of samadukha sukhatva. Develop an attitude of evenness towards sukha and dukkha. Don't abhor dukkha and don't prefer sukha also. Samadukha sukham. Such a man becomes wise. He becomes courageous. The whole world has to give you only sukha dukkhas in your mind. They approach you through the senses. And when the senses send them in the form of impressions, in the mind level they generate and instill only sukha dukkhas. Understanding that both are inevitable, both are in the nature of interactional impacts, develop an even attitude, samadukha sukham dhiram saha amritatvaya kalpade. Amritatvaya kalpade. Seemingly, it is an equal attitude towards sukha and dukkha. But in reality, if you introspect, you will find it carries a dimension, a magnificence unimaginably great. Amritatvaya kalpade. He attains liberation. That liberation means absolute freedom in the mind. All the shackles of the mind fall. The constrictions, they subside, they flee. You become free like air, free like space. This is what you feel like. Amritatvaya kalpade. Amritattva, amritattva. How many times shall I say this word? Amritattva. We are now martya. We have a feeling that I am mortal. Our body is mortal. But what inspires or what animates and activates the body is immortal. So bodily you have the cap of mortality, but inwardly you are crowned with immortality. Am I clear or not? Immortality you are crowned with inwardly, and both we are carrying. You only know the mortality now. I would like to tell you the Swamiji will want you to wear the crown of immortality. Will you? Very good. Samadukha sukham dhiram somritatvaya kalpade. Asakto hyacharan karma.
Asakto hyacharan karma.
Paramapnoti purushaha.
Paramapnoti purushaha.
Asakto hyacharan karma.
Asakto hyacharan karma.
Paramapnoti purushaha.
Paramapnoti purushaha.
Asakto hyacharan karma.
Asakto hyacharan karma.
Paramapnoti purushaha.
Paramapnoti purushaha.
We have been discussing the subject wherein lie or lies life's success and fulfillment. We began saying that life is an expression. It is an expression from inside to outside. When I begin to see you, that seeing process originates from my within. Is it not? In the same manner, when I begin to talk, when I begin to think, when I try to do intellection, rumination, trying to understand, whether I move my hands and feet, whether it is a sensory activity or an oral activity, sensory or oral activity, both are external and visible, audible. Whether I am thinking or intellecting, in all these things, it is an expression. It is a welling forth from within to without. So do you agree very clearly that life is an expression from inside to outside? And this expression is governed by the biological body on the one hand and the psycho-intellectual personality inside. The psycho-intellectual personality consists of the mind on the one hand, which gives rise to a number of feelings, emotions and similar urges. Intelligence, which gives rise to knowledge and knowledge orientations. This is our personality, a composite one. And life is an expression of all these. And in the course of the expression, it inevitably becomes an interaction. In the interactional sphere, the interacting subject, the individual, remains the same, no difference. Only the interacted with objects in the form of persons, places and events, they vary. This much is very clear, I believe. Is it not? So in order to have success and fulfillment in your life, where do you have to look to and tap? Inside, let us be very clear. And inside there are only two factors or constituents. One is the emotional complex mind, another is the rational, probing, inquiring and understanding intelligence. So how much you are able to enrich, empower and elevate the inner factors, inner constituents, the mind and the intelligence, that will determine the success and fulfillment of life. I am not going into any differences and variety about which are the areas of your performance or life of activities. I don't go into. A certain measure of objective knowledge is necessary, I spoke about. That is why you are professionals, performers and executors. All this knowledge is available from academic and professional and other research centers. The knowledge that we are lacking is the knowledge of the subject part. Inside our body, transcending matter and energy, there is something called the mind of emotions, the mind of feelings, the intelligence of understanding. These two are not coming within the range of matter and energy. So in order to enrich them, the only way is to employ our intelligence. The intelligence is given to knowledge. Whenever you relate any subject whatsoever, in the way of knowledge, using the canons of knowledge, the intelligence is bound to respond and accept. And Arjuna's confrontation and what followed when Krishna spoke to him in a way of admonition, he spoke only 64 letters in 2 verses. Suddenly Arjuna responded to it. Whatever he was suffering from, the most miserable plight, where the nervous system was shaken, the body crumbled, the mind was swirling, the intelligence was ranged against, the entire crumbling of his personality by listening to 64 letters from Krishna, suddenly found a poise, a confidence, a stability, whereby he could respond to Krishna in the same manner he spoke to him. Suddenly the grieving Arjuna became an inquirer. Are you with me? The grieving Arjuna became an inquirer. The mind's emotions were suspended or dissolved for a while, and the intelligence's dedicated inquiry and quest for knowledge to know more about what Krishna said, it suddenly sprang up, overwhelmed him. And thereafter it became an interaction between Krishna's intelligence and Arjuna's intelligence. This much we have arrived at. Because the success and fulfillment of life completely depend upon inside, from where all the expressions of life proceed, it is necessary to understand the human personality in all its fullness. Am I clear or not? We should know what this human personality itself is. A right understanding of human personality, without that, you will not be able to make any kind of a performance, pursuit or perseverance sustained, effective and fulfilling. Is there so much, Swamiji, to understand in the human personality? Yes. That is why Krishna began his discussion saying that, Arjuna, there was no time when I was not, you were not, these people were not. The ultimate constituent of our personality is not perishable, but imperishable. When you understand that within your human personality, there is something imperishable. What? There is something imperishable. Imperishable. Compared to all the constituents of the external world which are perishable. I said all the planets are perishable. Earth is perishable. Air is perishable. Even sky is perishable. Compared to all the perishable world, when you understand that something I have in the way of the imperishable, what should be the extent of confidence, courage, resolve, determination and perseverance you will be able to invoke and display? Is it something small or super great? Huh? You should respond to me from the intelligence. From the intelligence level. I don't want an eye level of response or a mind level of response. When there is something imperishable in you is there, the extent of inspiration, the extent of strength, the extent of dedication, the extent of any kind of a quality you require for your performance and activity, commitment, integrity, reliability, trustworthiness, accountability, whatever you look for, everything can be spun and woven from your mind. That is why he posited the soul. Now he makes it a little more clear. What is that? Am I clear? And are you also clear? See, there is a delusion gripping us. The world was evolved. The world was evolved. And when you look at the world, we look at it from the earth. What is earth? Something very solid. Something? But your eyes are small, but they can see very high to any extent. Is the earth bigger and greater, or the water on the surface of the earth greater? Huh? You haven't thought about it. So the earth is small, it is solid. What is the capacity of the earth, and what should be the permissiveness and the strength and permeation power of water? So we find earth is smaller, water is greater, the air surrounding both is still greater, and there are various forms of energy, they are still greater, and ultimately when you come to space, what will you say? Huh? Do you agree? So it seems to be what? Earth smaller, water greater, air still greater, various forms of energy still more powerful, and ultimately space, the all-engulfing substance. But my dear souls, pause for a while and begin to think. The subtler is the greater. What? You think of the earth as a solid mass. Take some substances from the earth, go into the molecular and atomic structure. The power that can be generated and released from the atoms within, the molecules within, are they like the solid earth? Huh? Why are you not responding? They are much, much greater, much huger. So the subtler is greater than the gross. When you go into your personality, you will find the greater, that graduation of greatness and greaterness, it is in inverse proportion. Our body is the least strong. Inside the body, the mind is greater. The intelligence is still greater. And there is still something beyond. Krishna tells Arjuna in a very clear manner, my dear Arjuna, the inner excels the outer. Will you please remember these three words? Inner excels the outer. And will you tom-tom this to your friends? Huh? Will you please do me a favor? When you go back today, you should take the telephone and tell everybody, send an SMS message. Swami Bhoomananda Ji asked me to do it. The inner excels the outer. The inner excels the outer. The subtler is greater than the gross. The subtle is greater than the gross. And you carry in your human personality the greatest in the whole creation. Will you believe me when I say this? I don't think. Huh? Either you must have faith in Swamiji's words, or you must have an intelligence to understand and confirm his statement. One of the two you must have. Listen to what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. It's a dialogue that transpired more than 5,000 years back on the Kurukshetra, which is about 100 and odd kilometers from Delhi. Indriyani paranyahu.
Indriyani paranyahu.
Indriyani paranyahu.
Indriyani paranyahu.
Indriyebhyah param manaha.
Indriyebhyah param manaha.
Manasastu para buddhihi.
Manasastu para buddhihi.
Yo buddhe paradastu saha.
Yo buddhe paradastu saha.
See, this is verse number 40 from the 3rd chapter. Indriyani paranyahu. Indriyani paranyahu. Indriyebhyah param manaha.
Indriyebhyah param manaha.
Manasastu para buddhi.
Manasastu para buddhi.
Yo buddhe paradastu saha.
Yo buddhe paradastu saha.
Beautiful song. Bhagavad Gita is said to be a song. Do you know why? Just like a crying child is appeased and pacified by a musical note, similarly the crying Arjuna was appeased by the philosophical spiritual song which Krishna delivered. The same effect it has which any music anywhere in the world has to the hearer. Indriyani paranyahu. Indriyebhyah param manaha. Manasastu para buddhi. Yo buddhe paradastu saha. A complete equation, sequence is drawn about the constituents of the human personality. In our interactional life, that is what we are trying to be successful and fulfilling in. He says, understand the relative superiority. What is that? In all our interactions which are taking place between the senses which are situated on the body, and the objects of the world surrounding, situated in many places. The interaction takes place. The five senses are constant, and the objects interacted with from the world alone remain variable. Am I not clear? And we have things like mustard and things like mountain sea ending up with space. All these we are seeing and interacting with. In the whole interactional process, which life is. Listen, listen, listen. Indriyani paranyahu. The seeing senses, the perceiving senses are superior to the perceived objects.